Okay. Yeah. So hello everyone. This is about the OpenERP7 to Odoo16 upgrade that we did recently. I would like to do an experience shareback. So a quick walkthrough of the implementation. So the implementation facility name is Jan Swasthya Soyog. It was founded back in 1996, and they primarily cater the healthcare needs of rural tribal communities in the north of Chhattisgarh at a low cost. And as we all know, JSS is the place where the initial development of Bahmni happened, and it is one of the earliest implementations. And they are using the entire suite of Bahmni Standard along with PACS, billing, lab. And Bahmni is being used at JSS from 2014. So the current statistics of their data is they have 3.5 lakhs of patients registered with 8.3 lakh visits and then 36 lakh of encounters. And also with our previous upgrade, which happened in January, JSS has been certified for ABDM integration with Bahmni and has started using the M1 flows as of now. Yeah. So going to the use of OpenERP, the implementation has been using the OpenERP right from the initial deployment of Bahmni from 2014 to manage the patient's billing and dispensation as well. And also they have leveraged the multi-database support which OpenERP and as well as Odoo provides to segregate the different departments of the facility. As an example, they have separate databases which is used to maintain the patient billing and the stock procurement, and a separate database which procures to manage the procurement and usage of the lab procurements like the reagents, chemicals for the labs. And then there was a separate database which is set up, which is used to track the internal use products like sanitary items and stuff. And on an average, the concurrent users across three databases for the OpenERP is about 10. Yeah. So now we have taken this to migrate from OpenERP7 directly to Odoo16. So as usual for the software delivery process, we have set up three different environments. One is the test environment, which got deployed with all our development builds, wherein the team at JSS, the system administration team, tech team, used to validate the flows with the test data, and the sync is with the EMR on the test environment. And then we had set up a pre-prod environment, which is about 2 weeks before the upgrade, wherein which is used by the actual billing team, billing users, and the pharmacy users, and with the sync connected with the EMR on the production environment. This has been very helpful for them to validate whether the quotations sync properly and they are able to complete their day-to-day flows between the old OpenERP7 and Odoo16. And they were able to come up with the queries or feedback that how the process they follow in OpenERP7 to the process what is changing in Odoo16 as well. And then finally we had the prod environment which is used after our go live, after the migration. Yeah. So when coming to the data migration, we have two different of data. One is the metadata and the master data, and the other is transactional data. So first we'll look about the metadata or the master data. So using the custom module, OpenERP7 data import, there is a custom module which is developed, which took care of migrating these items from the OpenERP7 database. So unit of measure categories, unit of measure product categories, products, customers, which is the patient data, and then the suppliers data. All these data are migrated using the module. So basically this module provides a batch job which can be triggered so that this would be fetched from the database, source database that is configured, and it would be imported into the Odoo16 database for the Odoo16 format. And then few other data as in like the locations, the shops, discount account heads, payment methods, order type shop mapping, syncable units mapping, price markup rules. This has been imported with the Excel based import since there were few corrections or the fixes needed on top of the existing data. So we went with an Excel based import. Then coming to few of the challenges that we faced during the metadata migration, specifically with respect to unit of measure, there were few inconsistencies in the reference values. So as an example, bottle of 50 ml, the reference unit was sometimes set differently. Like here in OpenERP7, the base unit of measure was liter, whereas in the Odoo16, the base unit of measure was ml. So we had to fix few of those reference values so that the stock calculation, everything happens properly. And then coming to the customer data, as I mentioned earlier, there were 3 lakhs of patients, and this took around 5 hours to migrate from the old system to the new Odoo16. And one reason behind this is because the batch job that runs in the background cannot take in all the 3 lakh patients together. We need to trigger the batch with every 20,000 patients. So if we give more than a number, either it gives an out of memory error or it times out and it exits partially. So this was one of the challenging tasks while migrating the metadata. Yeah. So few of the learnings that I would share here is we can start the master data migration a day or two before the go live, and we can take a database backup. And while doing that, we can keep a note of the atom feed markers, table entry for the patient feed, drug feed, and lab feed as the products and the customer would be migrated. And when we do the actual production deployment, we can resume the atom feed sync from that specific atom feed entry point, so that any new customer, new drug modifications that have happened, which would be applied on top of the database backup that is taken. Yeah. So, and another future tip that has been very much appreciated by the billing team and the pharmacy team there was, we have a sync which syncs the OpenMRS short name. When a concept for a drug is associated with the short name, it is synced to Odoo as an internal reference. And this helps the billing and the pharmacy team to quickly identify the drug using the short name. As an example, for paracetamol 500 mg for the concept, they have added the short name as PCM. So now in Odoo, they don't need to type paracetamol. Instead, they can type PCM and it would automatically fetch it from the product list. Yeah. So before I go into the transactional data, any questions or thoughts? Okay, right. I'll take that
I
as a
had
no.
one question in terms of the data import. So the
Yeah.
data import, for example, as I said, like, through CSVs, right?
Hmm.
And is there a specific format, for example, or the field names or something that it needs to be done? Field names needs to match or something?
Yes, Anshu. So most of the times we can give the names that are like, for example, if we take uh, as an example, if we take the shop mapping, we can give name and then the location and then the payment term. We can give the fields, and while we do an Excel based import, we will get a provision to map the fields. Okay, this column maps to this field of the Odoo
Okay,
schema.
nice. Huh.
So mostly Odoo will try to match it properly. If we see any inconsistencies or if Odoo is not able to match it, it will prompt us to select the field. Okay, this is the field where we want to map it.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So now coming to transactional data migration, the approach for transactional migration data migration is to migrate the customer outstanding from OpenERP and add it as a previous outstanding in Odoo. So we did not migrate the individual sale order lines or the individual invoice lines. And then coming to the stock data is imported again based on the stock checking exercise, which happened the day before our migration. And that too was a financial year end. They usually do their stock checking. So from that data, we had imported it into Odoo. And all both these data, the patient outstanding as well as the stock on hand data is imported using Odoo's Excel based import. The custom module doesn't support this transactional data, and it should be imported with the Excel based import. Yeah. So for the transactional data, the first one we did was the patient outstanding. So in the old system in OpenERP, there were around 30,000 patients who had an outstanding. And this import took us 7 hours again, because the count of patients that had the outstanding was too much. And for this 30,000 patients, 30,000 invoices needs to be created. And the data here has been extracted directly from the OpenERP database. We had extracted it with a query, and then the same query's output is written to an Excel file. The format would be like this, where we get the patient ID and then what is the outstanding amount, and these are the default fields that Odoo expects. So we passed this field and then we tried importing it into the system. The challenge that we faced here was the data has to be split into rows of 500 rows each file and imported. Even though Odoo has got a batch-based import automatically, configuring that value, but before that, to read the file and process the number of rows, we got an out-of-memory error. Then we submit this entire 30,000 lines as a single file. So here we written a fixed script which can split us the file. So we got around 60 files which needs to be imported. And each file with 500 rows took us around 10 minutes. Yeah. So this is the challenge that we faced during import of the patient outstanding. Then going to the stock data import. So in the implementation in OpenERP, they had maintained the stocks for the main stock room, wherein procurement stocks comes into the main stock room and then the dispensation happens from a sublocation. And for the internal locations and dispensary locations, stocks were not reduced properly because the delivery order validation was not automated at the time of OpenERP7, and it needs to be validated manually. So in the initial days, people used to validate it, but slowly the delivery order validation has stopped, due to which the stocks in the sublocations did not reduce properly and the stocks were inconsistent. But with Odoo, that has been automated, and the facility also wanted to track the lots even for the dispensary location and the sublocations as well. Yeah. So since the data from the old system was inconsistent, we had to migrate it with the physical stock checking exercise which happened on the day before the go live. Then yeah, so to migrate the inventory stocks, it's a two-step based Excel import file, wherein first we need to create the lots that are available. Then we do an inventory adjustment to update the on-hand quantity. So this would be the template for lot creation, wherein we give the product name and then the name field represents the lot, what the lot's name, and then we can pass in the cost price for that lot, sale price, and the expiration date. And then once the lots are created, we can do an inventory adjustment. We pass the product, we pass the lot or serial number, counted quantity, and the location where this quantity should be loaded, and the date. Yeah. Then yeah, while doing the stock inventory approach, so there were 5 sub locations where the stocks moves from the main stock room. So they gave the information location wise, and around different locations we had a rough estimate of around 1500 entries of stock information for each location. And since the stock checking happened manually, we have given them the product information. The product name has been given to them, but the expiration date and the batch number based on the stock checking, the pharmacy person need to enter it on the Excel sheet. So wherein we saw different date formats, wherein few of the date formats were written as August 25, and some of the date formats were like this, and some date formats were like this. And in few product entries where, like say as an example, from a strip of drug, they had cut 5 drugs and only they had 5, wherein they were not able to identify the batch number for the drug. In that scenarios, they did not enter the expiry date and the batch number. So to clean up this data, we have written a simple Python script which fixes all these date format and extract out the line entries which did not have a batch number, so that we can reconcile it later with the actual batch that is available in the stock room. So once the data is cleaned up, then we fed it into another script which split the Excel, the data that is given into 2 different CSV templates that I shown before, so that we can use that to import into Odoo at the 2 different places, lot creation as well as inventory adjustment. So while doing the lot creation, while doing the inventory adjustment, we faced one problem, as in during the Excel import, the lot selection was wrong, because there was a scenario wherein a lot with a name, as an example ABCD1234, the same lot was given to 2 different products. And in that case, what happens is when we import an Excel file, Odoo system selects the product properly, but the lot it selects from a different product. The first matching, the lot that matches the name first, it selects it. So due to which inventory adjustments did not happen properly. So we have to run a script so that we find the database ID by matching both the product name as well as the lot name and put it in the Excel file for the import. So instead of giving the lot name directly, we had to give the database's ID. So while during the Excel import, we can map the field saying that this is not the lot name, it is the database ID of the lot name. So as an example, I showed here. So as we can see, this was the lot name, but since this lot is mapped to another product also, we had to give the database ID. So this is the database ID of the specific lot. Yeah, this was one of the challenges. Yeah, and then the other challenge was with the import of lots from second location. So the first location went properly. We did this mapping and then we imported the lots. But when we tried creating the lots for the second location, and since the second location had the data of lots that is available in the first location also, the create lots failed because the lots are unique to a product. We can't create the lot again. And while doing Excel based import, Odoo expects the user to give only unique values. So again, we need to filter out the lots which are already available in the system and create only the lots which are needed for the second location. So this happened from the second to the fifth location, wherein we need to filter the only the unique lots that are available in that location and do an import. Yes. Yeah. Then with this, we had migrated all the data into the system, and then coming to starting of the atom feed sync between EMR and Odoo. So now that we had started the stock import and everything before, and we had taken a note of the atom feed entries, like where is the product feed, where is the patient feed, and everything. Now, while starting the atom feed sync, we should make the atom feed to start from the point until where it is synced to OpenERP. We did not want to start it from the first, because if we started from the beginning, it would start syncing all the encounters and all the quotations would start coming in. So what we did was, we took a backup of the markup table in an SQL format. We took only the values, not the schema. And then we started Odoo Connect service with the wrong credentials to avoid the sync starting. So this helps us to run the liquid-based migrations, which would create the schemas that is required for the atom feed sync, the markers table and the failed events table. So as soon as the service is stopped and the liquid-based migrations are completed, we loaded the markers table data from the backup that we took here. So all the marker table entries like the feed entry, lasted feed URI, feed URL has been imported, and then we started the service. So synced resumed from the last position, which is synced on OpenERP. So any new quotations or any new encounters that are made got created as quotations in the new system directly. Yeah. Before I move on to the next one, any questions? Okay, moving on. Yeah. Then going to the go live, on the day of go live, we did a phased approach wherein during the day one, we onboarded the billing and pharmacy department with the Odoo database. And then day two, we onboarded the main store department since it is maintained in a separate database. And then day three, we onboarded the lab department so that we can sort out issues for give training if needed, any support. So that we went with the day-wise approach for each of the department. And then every day after our go live, we usually set up the database and everything over the night. And during the day, we sit with the users to support them on the new interface, because they have been used to the old interface for so long. And for them, seeing the new interface and figuring out where the specific feature exists was a little difficult. Yeah. And this is the billing flow, how it happens at the facility. So first the patient visits the registration desk, and either the new registration happens or the visit gets opened at the registration desk. Then a patient card is given to the patient. The patient visits the doctor. The doctor adds the test, radiology test or medicines. Sometimes the doctor adds it on the EMR. Sometimes if the patient load is too high, they write it on the patient card also. So if the data is entered on the EMR, it syncs as a quotation. Whereas if it is written on the patient card, the card comes to the patient comes to the billing department with the patient card and submits the patient card. Now the billing, they have a data entry team where they find the patient by ID and verifies the medication data. Whatever is written on the patient card is available on the system. And if any lab orders are missing, they verify the data on the EMR, and then they also verify the sale quotation on the Odoo, and then they confirm the sale. So now with the new Odoo16, these processes are automated. So as soon as they confirm the sale, invoice gets created and confirmed, the delivery order gets validated. Now, as soon as the delivery order gets validated, the stocks gets reduced. Now the patient moves to the cash counter wherein the patient pays for the medicines, and then dispensation happens from the pharmacy. So here, since it happens ad hocly, since the delivery order confirmation happens here and the dispensation happens from the pharmacy, they agreed on a flow wherein here, while during the confirmation of the sale, the system will dispense it the first expiring batch first. So the delivery order will happen for the first expiring batch, and even in the pharmacy, they store the drugs in that order only, so that the first expiring batch comes out first and they dispense it from there. So we observed it for a day, and then most of the stock that dispensed on the day matched with the expiration dates as well. So the batch whatever is validated here got only dispensed from the pharmacy. Yeah. And then few challenges post go live was about the batch number selection. So initially by default, Odoo doesn't restrict the batch numbers that are available for selection location wise. As an example, you may have a batch that you just procured and you have not moved it for bill dispensation. It would reside in the main stock room, but you have not moved it to the pharmacy. But in the sale quotation or in the delivery order, Odoo allows you to select that batch as well, which has led sometimes the Odoo auto delivery validation that is happens in the background failed and the stocks did not reduce, or sometimes the Odoo system doesn't allow you to confirm the quotation, because once a batch that is not available in a location is confirmed, the stock goes into minus, and when we try to validate the next sale quotation, Odoo throws an error saying that you don't have enough stocks to dispense. And here again, instead of doing the customization ourselves, we leveraged the Odoo Community Association, and they have fixed this before. There is a simple module that has been put on over there, stock picking filter logs, which filters the logs that are available based on the location that is selected. This applies at both the places, when you do an internal transfer as well as when you do a dispensation. And this Odoo Community Association has a hosted GitHub repo which has support for lot of open source modules. So as we can see here, this comes from different open source modules, and they have categorized it according to the flows. For as an example, they have separate modules for invoicing flows. They have separate modules for stock logistic flows. They have separate for the sale order workflow. So each of this here is a module. These could be small modules which would help us to do few validations or some extensions that they would have done. Yeah. So we can go through these modules if we want to add some customization features on top of the Odoo that Bahmni ships with as well. Yeah, and then the next one was we had to do few inventory adjustments wherein few stock data that has been given during the stock checking exercise either had corrections due to the missed count while they are doing a count or incorrect counting. So one of the scenario that we saw was while doing the counting, maybe as an example for syrup, paracetamol syrup, it was in bottle of 60 ml and the count was given as 2. But in Odoo, the stock keeping unit was in ml. Now, since in the Excel data we had it as 2, the data got imported into 2 ml, but the actual quantity was 120 ml, 2 into 60 ml. So few corrections had to be done. For that, we have the inventory adjustments feature in Odoo. Yeah, and then these are few of the points while planning for the upgrade. So we can start the master data migration at least a day before go live, because anyways at an implementation we would have good amount of data including the products and the customer information. And then the other specific, this is an important point actually, we can keep backing up the database on each step of the migration process. Like as soon as we finish the customer import, we can take a backup. And then as soon as we finish, let's say outstanding import, we can take a backup. And then as soon as we create a lot, we can take a backup. So this would help us to roll back to the last step instead of starting over from the configurations. Like as in during the stock import, we may load an incorrect Excel or the data can get loaded into a different location. So in that case, we can just roll back to the previous step and start the import process again from that step. But if we miss the database backup, then we have to start it from fresh again, do all the configurations, all the imports. And then, yeah, so for the migration, we can plan it during the outside of the working hours of the facility so that the sync can be stopped for a few times and then received on the new system. So this helps because if we keep on continuously running the sync onto the old system, for every encounter, the quotations would go over there. And the next day, billing person would start using the new system. And those quotations will remain open there, and those quotations needs to be manually created on the new system. So for a day on the outside of the working hours, we can switch the sync from the old system to the new system. And one another specific thing which helped us was we kept the running the pre-prod environment for a few days after live, which helped us to restore the DB backup from prod quickly and then fix anything, any incorrect data entry. If some incorrect data entry has happened, how do we replicate it and how do we resolve it to a normal state? So this could be helpful in case of Odoo because reconciling every data, the payment data as well as the stock transaction data is important. So once we have an incorrect entry, that should be reconciled as soon as possible. Or else later sometime we would get an error, either the stock would not be matching or we would get an error while confirming the sale quotations. Yeah, that's it. Any questions?